lap. That last day, her mother sat Juliet down and explained that she couldn't bring her father back. She had to put him down like a hydrophobic dog. Juliet sobbed, but said she agreed. She buried her head in a couch pillow. Her mother went into the basement and closed the door behind her. Then Juliet heard her mother cry out in happiness. "He's back, Juliet." Then the screams. She hesitated, and every time the things spoke like her father or mother, Juliet hesitated too. So, it worked on her. It worked on her mind. Juliet opened the back door and grabbed the stairs railing. Leaning on it, she slid to the ground and beelined to the shed. The earth pulsed like a heartbeat, and she tripped, but held her balance. Sweat poured from her forehead and down her back. She felt light, ready to tumble into the air and never come down. No. The doctor said she couldn't survive another heart attack. No, please. In the shed, a can half filled with gasoline rested by the lawnmower. She should have done this years ago, but she always feared it would retaliate, or worse, do nothing but upset it more. She tried to lift it with one hand, then two, and began to drag it to the house. With only them living there, no one else could die. She dropped to her knees, hand still on the gas can, and put her palm on the ground. It radiated heat with its gentle rise and fall, as if it were breathing. "Juliet," her father's voice, "we can bring the land to life again. Become part of us, life?" Juliet thought. She held her breath and realized there were no bird songs, no insects chittering. Hell, when was the last time she emptied a rat trap? Life, not here. "You told me not to listen to it, Mother, so why did you get so close? What happens now?" She asked herself that question often, usually in the night, struggling to sleep as the walls expanded and contracted, as every inch of her house acted more like flesh and bone than wood and plaster. What happens when you're gone? Her arms ached, then burned. The pain spread to her face and pressure built in her chest. She tried to stand but collapsed. Juliet vomited and her head swam. No. Her chest pain radiated. Not now. She fell onto her back and stared at the blue sky. Even here, she heard it breathe, heard it speak, "Come back." Juliet tried again to sit up. No, she couldn't. "I can make you strong." She refused to become what others did, what he did. She dragged the can closer and fumbled to unscrew the lid. She knocked it over and gas poured over the grass, soaking her clothes. It felt cold, like ice water. The overpowering smell burned her sinuses. "No. Stop." "I'm a long way from town," Juliet whispered, "and my father tied those chains himself. The animals. Gone. All of it gone. Don't even hear birds, just you and I. What will I do? Starve?" She held the lighter above her in a shaking hand, the sun making a halo around it. Maybe she would be different. Maybe she could control it. No. If her father couldn't do it, someone far stronger and better than she'd ever be, then surely she couldn't. His glowing eyes and bloody face still haunted her every time she closed her eyes. The light. The sun was so bright, pushing every cloud away. "Thank you, Jesus." She put her thumb to the flint wheel. The lighter clicked and clicked, but finally sparked. Juliet screamed, but her heart killed her before the flames could. Inside a dark room in the empty house, the creature stirred, summoning all of its great strength to rise and pull against its chains. Eventually, after all these decades, a link snapped. Persistence. The creature slammed a hand against the door, shattering it. Stepping through, it spreads its wings and roared. Only one more door, once the sun sets. Outside lay Juliet Braun. The last merciful death in Irwin, a seance to find him. An annual tradition for myself alone, one I keep close. Not even my children know. Can you believe he's been gone 20 years? My life has been quiet and beautiful since then, but every year I find a medium, a truly gifted one. I can sort them so easily, the true talents. I do this so every year I can remind him that it was me who did it, no one else. My hands alone. I wake him to let him know it was me, and that they'll never find the places I hid him. How does a town die? They say it happens overnight. Yes, overnight. In a matter of seconds. In a blink. Not that you'd know it, not that anyone would. You insulate yourself in a metal box with air conditioning and a podcast. A chipper voice tells you where to turn. You stop there once for gas, you smile at the cashier and buy a Coke. That town existed. You may not remember, but I do. Even writing that down, I feel the obelisk watching, hovering above. Just remembering it is a call in the dark, and one day I will answer. But that town I spoke of? It's forsaken now, boarded up windows and a single gas station long closed. Even dispensaries, the last shot most rural places have for survival, have closed. How did it happen? Overnight. I'd known Mark since high school. We were the last ones standing, the only relationship from that era that didn't end in divorce. Our secret? No clue. We fumbled through life like everyone else, but somehow kept our hands together. So it was clear something was wrong when Mark started coming home so late. Suddenly his 20-minute commute took an hour, sometimes more. An affair? Alcoholism? Meth? None of the above. When he pulled into the garage 3 hours late, long after the sunset, I jumped into the passenger seat. "Where have you been?" I'd asked. "Driving home," he said. He meant it too. "It's dark out there, Mark." His brow furrowed, and he massaged his chin with his left hand. A look of confusion over his face when he turned to me and said, "I know. I need to know what's happening." I told him. That was me, the one always with the plan. Talk is a good start, but action is the only way forward. Sometimes I drove Mark crazy that way. He could mention a half-baked idea, like maybe we open a snow cone stand this summer or take a trip to Yosemite. 10 minutes later, I'd have a plan. I'd have a shopping list. "I'm ready, Mark. Let's make a leap." He didn't push back. He gave in. He said he was stopping every day to gas up the car at a town way off his usual route. He remembered the town. He'd visited once when the highway was under construction for a few weeks and took a detour. The place was nowhere. Nothing. A gas station and a Dollar General. A once beautiful main street with buildings that have been unoccupied since the 90s. The usual. "Do you remember stopping here?" I asked. We were looking at the bank statements on my phone. "No. But I stop every day since the 30th. What was different about the 30th? I worked late. Way late. Highway was still closed, so I stopped for gas that night. Then I guess I've been doing that ever since. What happens in those 3 hours? The commute is only 15 minutes longer according to maps. No clue. Mark, whatever it is, please just tell me." "I don't know." I jumped. He'd never raised his voice to me before. He quickly apologized profusely. "I don't know what's going on. I swear to God I don't." "On my life?" I asked. "On both our lives." I had a plan. Later in bed, I told him the gist. We had an old pair of AirPods, toys from a better time. I would stick one in the car. Fugue Mark is up to no good. "You don't have to say fugue, Mark, like I have a split personality." I laughed and rolled over, cuddling up to him. The ceiling fan rattled above us, and we were seconds from sleep. We talked about taking a break from the job so he could rest and maybe get over this. But being a paycheck from ruin made that an impossibility. No breaks. It takes so much more these days. Just to keep the lights on. Just to keep a little gas in the tank, even if you can't remember the last time the tank was full. Even if the empty fridge shelves shine a brilliant yellow to remind you how far you're falling. "Could it be stress?" I asked. "I mean, it's not more than normal," he said. "I can't think of the last time I had a panic attack. What if we talked to someone?" "You think I'm crazy?" I punched his arm. "Don't get defensive. Something weird is going on. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm gonna meet you there this week." What Mark yawned. One day this week, I'm going to meet you there. See what's happening in this place. I chose Tuesday. No one suspects Tuesdays. I left around the time he would, hoping I'd catch him before filling his tank. The tracking data from the AirPod showed he arrived at the gas station and stayed there for almost an hour and a half. The rural highway was asphalt crumbling on both sides, weeds creeping in through the erosion, abandoned houses and ramshackle barns, weathered and being eaten by ivy. Mother Nature's patient. Eventually, she reclaims it all. The drive made me restless. I turned off the radio after finding nothing, humming to myself because I couldn't stand the background hum of the engine. The harsh winds made my car drift. I tightened my grip and sat up. How is Mark doing this every day? Why? You couldn't pick this one from a lineup of small towns, a living ghost town, almost dead, awaiting hospice. The main street was the same, kept on life support with the gas station and dollar store. I went to the former. The bell over the door dinged. No other customers, only me. Staticky country music played. Dust-coated shelves were cluttered with fun-sized chip bags and candy. Most were probably expired. By the register, trucker pills, newspapers, and magazines stared at me as lifelessly as the bored cashier behind the counter. I beelined to her and took out my phone and showed her Mark's picture. "You've seen this man, probably," she said. "If he lives around here, not many gas stations to choose from. He comes in here every day, if you say so." I nodded and put my phone away. I bought a fountain drink and a candy bar and sat in a faded booth by the overcooked hot dogs under a heat lamp. I listened to a random car or two backfire outside. No sign of Mark. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Hello, babe," Mark asked. "Where are you at?" "Where are you at?" "Home. I'm at the gas station." "Which one, Mark?" "Oh, he went straight home, no detour." Before saying goodbye, I asked if he wanted me to bring him dinner. Watching the hot dogs rotate under the lamp, he declined. On my way to leave, the woman behind the counter asked if I'd found my man yet. "The search continue," I said. "Dead or alive?" Looking back now, I felt it. I didn't know then, of course, but I felt it. Was it invisible? Hiding in the clouds? A sense of being watched, something high above me reading my thoughts. It doesn't matter, I guess. Sooner or later, you know. At home, Mark was sitting on the couch, his legs shaking, his hands clasped. "I missed you at the gas station," I said. "What's happening?" Mark asked. I sat next to him and held him close. He talked about reading a story about someone who thought his house was haunted, but it turned out a carbon monoxide leak was messing with his head. The more he read, the more he learned, the more his fear grew. I almost made a joke, the only way I can handle anything remotely serious, but I held back and kept my arms around his middle, my head on his shoulder. "Maybe I do need to talk to someone," he said. "We'll figure this out. We'll fix it, and then we'll laugh about it later." "You're laughing about it now, I know, babe," I said. "But that's because I need to talk to someone too. Maybe we can tag team a therapist." "What, take that however you want. I know you're hurting." He laughed, and a weight lifted from my shoulders. If he can laugh, he's still Mark, right? If I can make him laugh, we're still us, right? When Mark gets up to pee in the night, he never wakes me up, but something stirred me. I patted the cold, empty space beside me and rolled out of bed. The bathroom was empty, and there wasn't an answer when I called for him. I went into the hall to the living room, but stopped cold in my tracks, a shadow, standing in front of the front door. Then I realized it wasn't a shadow. It was Mark. He held the doorknob in his ring hand and jingled something in his left. "Mark? You never wake a sleepwalker, so I hear." Regardless, I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Mark?" He screamed, shrill and terrified. He shoved me back and I fell on my ass, hard. He blinked like he was waking up. "Han?" he asked. "What the fuck was that? You pushed me." "What? Just now, you were leaving, you had your keys in your hand. Where were you going?" "I don't know." He dropped the keys, then he dropped. I held him while he sobbed and apologized. He kept saying he didn't know why he pushed me or where he was going or for what reason. But we knew, at least for the latter. We both knew he was headed to the town down the road, to that gas station amidst a handful of buildings and homes, surrounded by encroaching grass and trees. After that night, he started to carpool, catching rides with friends. He even asked me to take a few days off, to drive him to work. I reminded him that we couldn't afford it. I had to work too. But he was scared. God, he was scared, and so was I. There was no one to go to. No insurance for a doctor or a therapist, only us. Saturday came, and I let him sleep in. I winced when I stepped into something wet in the hall. I looked at my foot. A puddle of black paint. Why was this there? I glanced at the walls, and drawings, sketches in the same color ran down the entire hallway. An enormous object. The closest thing I could compare it to was the Washington Monument, a tall obelisk with a pointed top and bottom. There were hieroglyphics scrawled around it, although I didn't know anything about them. I teach 5th grade social studies, for Christ's sake. They seemed wrong. Some bastardized version of ancient Egyptian. I looked at the drawing and can remember the cold slowly crawling up my spine, the sudden weight in my gut. Fear. Still didn't compare to later, though. I ran to Mark, hoping I was wrong. But when he sat up, there was black smeared on the sheets and coating his hands. Ignoring the paint, I took his hand and pulled him into the hall. He looked exhausted, pale with purple under his pink-tinged eyes. "How long did it take to draw this?" Mark just shook his head. I wrapped my arms around him and said nothing either. What the hell could we say? If I could go back, I would say one thing: run. Let's run before it calls you back. But I didn't, and we went about our last day together. Drinking coffee in the morning and went grocery shopping in the afternoon and had a lackluster lunch, then leftovers for dinner. Mundane as it was, I remember it fondly. We went to bed that night and I thought everything would be okay. I wonder if the brain does that? When your back is against the wall, when your bank account is in the red, and payday is a week away and you have food for today but tomorrow is up in the air, why do you get that sudden ebullient feeling that it's all going to be fine? Because it's not. It never is. Sure as hell wasn't that night our last night. I woke alone, again and again. Found my husband in the doorway watching me with wide eyes. Tonight I found him there again. "Where are the car keys, Mark? It's 3 in the morning," I said. "Where are the fucking keys?" He clenched his teeth, his lips twitching. Sweat poured from his face as he began to pace. He was definitely awake, not sleepwalking. I backed up. I hid them. "You've been sleepwalking, I'm awake." Honey, I need the keys." "No," I said. "Come to bed. Let's get some sleep. Wherever you need to go, we can go in the morning. It's waiting for me. I have to be there." I recoiled from his outburst and he dropped to his knees. He sobbed, repeating himself. The way he was, the cops very well may shoot him for being so erratic. When he stopped crying, I got out of bed and went to him. He wiped his eyes. "I can run. If I run, I can make it." "Make it where? Make it before what?" He shot up to his feet. "Mark, stop. Listen. Talk to me." I grabbed his leg, but he unlocked the front door and bolted into the night, the warm night air rushing inside. "Mark." I retrieved the keys from their hiding place and jumped into the car. I had to find him before he hurt himself, or someone else, or God forbid a cop found him. I kept the radio low, the windows down, the air outside hot and muggy. I scanned the neighborhood, trying to discern if he could have gone between houses or hid behind a bush or, God forbid, into the woods. I blinked back the tears. Not now. Plenty of time for that later. I flipped on the brights and spotted him, not too far ahead, his arms pumped back and forth wildly, his feet slapping the pavement so hard I could hear it. I passed him and hit the brakes, barely putting the car in park before I leapt out of the car and tackled Mark, bringing us both down into a ditch. "Stop, Mark. Fucking stop, please. I have to go." His voice cracked. "Then tell me where," I said, giving in. He was doing this with or without me, and I'd rather dive into the madness with him than let him go alone. "I'll drive you there. We can do this together. Are you sure?" I said I was, then he relaxed, like my consent deflated the insanity overtaking him. We climbed out of the ditch, clothes damp from runoff, and we got back into the car. "Where to?" I said, "You know?" Of course I did. Soon. We were only a few minutes from the gas station when I saw a flash of blue, like lightning, but the light never dissipated. The light spun and bounced off the trees and houses. I could see window shades opening, people huddling for a view. "Faster," he said. "Mark?" I asked. "Drive faster." He ran his hand over his sweaty face, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm sorry. We just have to get there as soon as possible. It's waiting." "What's waiting?" He opened his mouth to speak, but only stuttered. The look of bewilderment again. But more than that, there was fear. "We just have to be there." I stopped when I caught movement ahead in the headlights. People crowded the four-way intersection making up the town center. Seemingly the whole town, the gas station's lights seemed to dance through them, milling about. "Mark?" I asked. The blue glow swirled whimsically above everyone. I heard Mark's seatbelt unlatch, the passenger door opening. With the open door, the scent of death wafted in a sweet rot. "Wait!" The crowd turned to us. There were tiny blue pinpoints of light in their eyes, like an animal's eyeshine. The lights bobbed and bounced as they approached the car. I grabbed Mark's arm. "We have to." He faced me, and the glow was in his eyes too. I instantly released his arm. "Look at it," he said. He pointed above us. I craned my neck to look up through the windshield. The blue light illuminated something. A massive structure, which seemed carved from stone, was rotating above, the glow issuing from openings around what might be its bottom. An obelisk, like the drawings in the hallway. "What is it?" I asked, awestruck. I watched it slowly rotate, bathing the town in a beautiful, calming blue. I couldn't see the top of it. It was too big. It rose and rose until the night obscured it. Whatever power it held on me vanished, realizing the horrors that have already come and would come. I threw the car in reverse. He grabbed my arm and tried to pull me out the door. I screamed, trying to break his grasp, and stomped on the brakes. He lost his hold and tumbled out of the car. The crowd approached us, their glowing eyes seemingly replacing the stars. There was only them, only the obelisk. Mark crawled into the car and attempted to wrench me out again, but I panicked and kicked him in the face. He dropped out of the car and onto the road. I lunged across the passenger seat and slammed the door shut, locking it. He pounded on the window, shouting for me to unlock the car, to let him in, for me to get out. The obelisk glowed brighter, and the people turned to it and ran towards it. The great structure rotated faster, the blue light blurring into a single unmoving stream of illuminates. The car shook. Siding from nearby buildings tore free, sucked toward the object. Mark didn't care about me anymore, rushing with the crowd. "Mark!" The glow flashed into a blinding white, and the car rolled ahead despite my foot on the brake. I crawled into the back seat, laying down and covering my head with my arms. The scent of decay was thick in the air. I sobbed. I cried out for Mark. Then darkness. I woke to desolation, the kind that takes lifetimes. The asphalt cracked and fractured, the windows of the gas station broken. In the center of the four-way stop, I could see a few items of clothing, several pairs of shoes scattered, and random like a Salvation Army truck overturned. I left the car and the air felt cool. The air was sweet, like honeysuckles. No sound, not even insects, only a gentle, cool breeze and a low morning light. The gas station was empty, like it had been for years. The town was gone. I drove home. What else could I do? Mark was reported missing. I told them what I knew about his erratic behavior and about the last time I saw him running to a crowd in a small town off a county road. Really? Shit, that place has been abandoned for years. What was he doing there? I don't know. They talked to me for hours. The investigation would continue for 2 more years. No one was missing. The town had been abandoned for years. Only Mark. I was never arrested, but my name was never cleared. Not really. He became a character to people. Somehow, out of the hundreds of thousands of missing, his became the one to spread on social media. What happened to Mark, the person lost to the mystery? Who Mark was only mattered to me, and that mattered more than anything. I miss him, but I know he's gone forever. The light was mesmerizing, but so-ish the glow of an anglerfish. I move around now. Van life without the social media, just always driving, always staying ahead of the obelisk. Because you forget them, you forget ever stopping, you forget ever seeing anyone. You forget even as the targets grow larger, as the hundreds become thousands. But I remember them. I find them all recognizing the devastation and the faint blue in a building's shattered glass like a radiation left behind poisoning the cracked asphalt in crumbling buildings. I write them down. I record them. Because they were there, they existed. I remember them all. I have grease paint cheeks, red nose, and big shoes. I'm always carrying balloons, every conceivable hue. If you want to come find me, you won't have to look far. Just check your closet and attic or the floor of your car. I got the job because Astro dropped dead. A trucker for damn near 40 years, he held on to the CB handle long after he mowed the lawns of the Vernon Rest Cemetery. I hauled heavy equipment myself for a few years, doing the impossible as I skirted downtown Dallas traffic in a lowboy trailer, carrying excavators, backhoes, and the like from one job site to another. Hell, this job was going to be a piece of cake. We'd met at the Loft, a bar that catered to the local skydiving community. The pillars on the bar decorated with $1 bills patrons had drawn on. A few of mine were up there. I found one from my dad. I didn't know the bastard was still alive. I met Astro a few weeks earlier when he got the job, mowing and weed-eating around the stones and mausoleum. Yeah, Texas heat's a bitch, but the pay was good and it was lonely work. You get old enough, you start craving that lonely work, no one bothering you about anything. Just you and the job, a perfect couple sometimes. Hell, Charlie, this is an easy gig. Between this and the retirement checks, things are finally going my way. Too bad we gotta get one foot in the grave before we get there, I said. Fuck Charlie. I got plenty of years left. He barely had a year left. A couple weeks before his golden years, Astro told me he wanted to catch up at the Loft. I was late because my truck was giving me shit. I expected him to be a few beers deep by the time I got there, but he was only holding one, peeling the label off the bottle. Hey Astro, hey buddy. I clapped a hand on his shoulder and he dropped the drink, beer spilling across the bar. Shit, I'm sorry, I said. The bartender rolled her eyes and tossed us a rag. I helped him clean it up. Sorry, Charlie, he whispered. I'm out it these days. Been having these awful dreams. Dreams? I asked. Like nightmares, but worse. They feel so real, man. His voice trailed off. Rest of the night we barely talked. So after about 2 drinks, I said I had somewhere to be. Felt bad leaving him, but I'd rather be getting the sleep I was missing than twiddling my thumbs and trying to make small talk. A week or 2 later, He wanted to meet again. Coming into the loft, I saw a different man. A lesser man. Lost a ton of weight, dark circles under the eyes, saggy skin, the works. He sat still, but his hands trembled. "Charlie?" he said, his voice barely audible. "I'm gonna need you to take over for me. For a bit. I cleared it with the cemetery committee. Said you'd finish out the summer." "Well, shit. What about you? I just need a break." "You been having dreams?" Astro turned to me. His lip quivered, and he grabbed my arm. "It's these fucking kids, man, in my dreams. These two scraggly, hungry-looking kids. They're waving at me. That's all. Just waving and smiling. But every night I wake up soaked in sweat and piss. I can't sleep anymore. I can't concentrate at all. I just keep seeing those kids in Vernon Rest, standing behind the first row of stones, waving at me." He didn't talk much after that. I paid his tab and wished him well. He quit soon after, and I took over. I tried to drop off the checks to Astro, but he refused. Every time I darkened his door, a single wide trailer at the end of a rutted white rock road, the dreams had whittled him away a little more. For me, I stayed busy. That time of year, I was up there damn near every day before dawn, mowing or weeding, pulling or planting flowers, writing or cleaning gravestones, you name it, I did it. The place was big as hell. Monuments and tombstones were in perfect rows and section out front, but the further back you went, the more unkempt they became. Leaning to the side, some collapsed and shattered, or were straight up missing. Rumor had it, kids were sneaking in during the night and stealing them. But that was above my pay grade, so I let someone else deal with that. Missing or not, I still had to be real careful when mowing, likely to crack loose a blade or a chunk of granite. The second week, the feeling of being watched started while picking up trash in the old part of the cemetery, the Compilation plot. It was the only section that seemingly no one gave a shit about. The destroyed graves were never repaired. Either the family all died off or simply forgot about them. My hair stood on end. I stopped the mower and listened, waiting. Quiet. No insects trilling, no cicadas crying out, no grasshoppers. Not a sound, just the heat trying to put a hand over my mouth and suffocate me, despite the shade and the chill running up my spine. I wiped my brow with a rag and sipped a little water. I thought about Astro's dreams. Were those kids out there, behind the tree line, peeking through bushes? Were they silencing the world? Nah, I laughed to myself. Ain't no such thing. I got the call from his cousin 3 weeks into covering for Astro. He was dead. Heart attack. Thing is, he hadn't been at home or the loft. He was at the cemetery. In the Compilation plot, they carried him out of the back part on a stretcher, already stiff as a board. That damned old section. Had he been there when I was cleaning? Was it him I felt watching me, unable to call for help? I didn't want to admit it, but I couldn't help the guilt of possibly being the reason why he died in the first place. But why there? The coldest section of the cemetery, chilling you on a 3-degree day. What the hell was Astro doing out there? I stayed away for several days, but I had to go back. When I did, I got a late start. I didn't want to let the grass go another day. Otherwise, rain was due. It would grow so fast, it would choke the mower, and I'd double the work. The sun wasn't setting in the summer until damn near 9:30, so by the time I got to the old section, I had a whisper of daylight. I should have started there, because it was pitch dark when I finished, but I just couldn't shake the feeling, like staring down a dark tunnel. You don't know what's at the end, only that it ain't good. Dragging the mower and hauling the weed eater, I looked over my shoulder and a light flicked on. I dropped the weed eater, let go of the mower. The light bounced, like someone running with a flashlight, back and forth behind the old tombstones. "Hey, you need to get the hell out of here," You hear?" The light winked out. My breath rattled as I tried to steady my voice. "Respect the dead. Don't come out here screwing around, got it?" Someone giggled, then another person shushed. I swear to Christ, I heard a giggle. I hauled ass to my truck, abandoning the weed eater and push mower. I'd pick them up the next day. I glanced into the bed to make sure there were no stowaways, and I jumped into the cab and floored the engine. The headlights illuminated the graves, and thank God, no one was there. Would you be surprised that I woke up screaming that night? Screaming. Mrs. said it sounded like someone set me on fire or something. What was it? She asked. What did you dream about? What made you scream something awful? I told her. 2 kids. Dirty, scraggly, like Astro described, waving at me, all smiles. The dreams continued. I did the work, but the tension left me aching like I'd run a marathon while hauling cinder blocks. I kept glancing this way and that, keeping an eye out for those kids. The girl, in a torn dress that seemed a size too big, hair a tangle, and something dark smeared around her mouth. The boy in shorts and no shirt, his body marked with tiny red slashes and dots, the work of thorns and bug bites. His face seemed wrong, like a mask that didn't fit. You could really see it when he smiled that lopsided grin. Inviting Astro's girl that night, Clarissa, out for a drink at the loft wasn't a good idea, I knew that. But I had to talk to someone who might know anything about Astro. I hoped she'd come. I hoped she didn't. Soon enough, my hopes didn't matter. Normally, the woman would enter a room by throwing open the door and commanding attention. She could get a stranger laughing and leave without paying for a single drink. She entered like a mouse, hands in her jacket pockets, head down, shoulders hunched. She all caution about the cat just hiding out of view. She made her way to the bar with her head down. Clarissa, girl, so sorry about Astro. You knew him longer. She ordered a beer from the bartender. Sorry to you. Haven't seen you since the funeral, haven't gone anywhere since the funeral. Look, I said. Astro said some weird stuff about the cemetery. I just want to drink a bit, she said, taking the sweating bottle. I want to know what happened to my friend Clarissa. I'll ask this one time and leave you alone about it, I promise. She nodded and took a swig of her drink. He started working there at the cemetery and couldn't sleep. Wake up every night screaming, pissing the bed. Said they,